Do you think aliens are, based on what you know, amongst us now?
We've mapped less than 20% of the ocean floor. We've mapped more of the moon, for goodness sakes, than we have the ocean floor. To me, that just seems more logical that there's something there. Roswell was a cover-up because military intelligence comes out saucer captured in New Mexico desert. Now, the next day they come out and say, oh no, we made a mistake. It was a hot air balloon.
Yeah, I saw
Now, how
that.
do you go from a saucer to a hot air balloon? To me, that's just beyond belief.
And is there something that if the public knew, it would cause the public to completely crumble?
I don't smoke weed, but if I did, that'd be the kind of thing I'd sit there and think about all the time. It kind of freak me out,
I want to tell you guys about Verdict Bourbon. If you're looking for a good bourbon, the best bourbon on the market, I'm telling you, go look at the reviews. Don't listen to me. Great bourbon, straight 6-year, smooth, flavorful. And then you also have the 6-year, same mash bill, just with brown sugar in it. So if you like it a little sweet like our old fashioned, we got you covered. We have, we probably hundreds and hundreds of 5-star reviews at this point. VerdictBourbon.com, VerdictBourbon.com, get you some bourbon today, baby. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I told you guys I've been on this rampage, going down the rabbit hole of looking up, is ET real or not? And I had to interview a congressman who's everywhere. He's talking about it. I think he's one of the few that are bold enough to put his reputation out on the line to tell the public what he can tell us about what's going on with these UFOs and other things that the government is withholding or that they may be releasing. And so without further ado, I want you guys to help me welcome the congressman from Tennessee, Congressman Tim Burchett. Congressman Tim Burchett, welcome to the show.
I am really honored to be on with you. Thank you so much.
Well, I count this as an incredible privilege because this is a very historical moment in humanity, because I believe that people have known about these UFO sightings and all of these things, but now the government is acknowledging it. And I think that from this point on, some of our founding fathers, forefathers didn't have an opportunity to present this to the public the way we can today, but we're going to start learning about a lot of stuff here soon. I'm hopeful of. And I'm alive to be able to interview the man that can give us as much information as possible. So, Congressman, the government release of the information, a lot of people have seen you talk about this before, but for my audience, why is the government releasing the files in small batches instead of just giving us everything that we should need to know right up front?
Well, the reason they're doing it at all is because we made them. Myself, Eric Burleson, Representative Luna from Florida, and Jared Moskowitz from Florida. We all kind of got together and rode this pony on out, and that's what we did. We had a lot of friction at first, and it just kind of manifested itself, I guess. I told somebody I didn't go looking for this issue; it kind of found me. But President Trump kept his word to me. I asked him about it. I said, would you please? And he said he was going to do it. Dadgummit, he did it. But here's the problem we're seeing right now is that his people are kind of getting stonewalled by some of the alphabet agencies. It's classic deep state. And I want to warn people, some of the stuff that's probably going to be on this group of videos that have just come out will be stuff you'll be easily identifiable. And I think they did that on purpose. I think they did that to kind of throw us off. And they said, oh, well, we're releasing it all. Well, the reality is they're not releasing it all. There's things that I've seen and people that I've talked to that don't have the clearance or the ability to come out and talk. And we've got to break through that. We've got to break through that. And I congratulate the president on his honesty to me. But as some of his top people have told me, they're getting a lot of resistance. And if I could go back a couple of years, I had an amendment on a big defense bill, and my amendment was 2 pages long, and it just said, release it, everything about it. And then they came in the leader of the Democratic Party in the Senate, not Biden. Who's the Democrat leader? Anyway, he had a 60 page bill to do what I wanted to do, and and in that bill it created a format or a commission, I guess, that would be very similar to the Kennedy assassination. It was actually modeled after the Kennedy assassination, and and that's what everybody jumped on board with. And his bill ended up dying a painful death in the Senate, and he ran the Senate. So, but it's just a cover up upon cover ups, and the deep state does not want us to have this. And part of it's arrogance, I think, and part of it's uh, could you imagine if they found an energy source, because these things are hovering for hours on end. We have
Mm.
reports, and then they can just shoot off into space, just almost, it's instantaneous, and the amount of power to do that is just beyond belief. And we don't have any capabilities of that, but to do that, the energy source would be incredible. And when they get these things on sonar, they show no heat signature, so
Mm.
they have 0 point energy of some kind. Could you imagine what that would do to the oil companies and the war pimps at the Pentagon? We wouldn't be going on into these wars for oil. We wouldn't be worried about it. Poor people could cool their homes in the summer and heat them in the winter for virtually no cost
Yeah.
and no threat to our environment. I mean, can you imagine the the turmoil that could cause? So I think there's a lot to do with it, and also I think there's a complete arrogance. You didn't
Mm.
ask me about this, but I'm going to tell you anyway.
No, I love to hear it.
You're interested. There's a real arrogance in government. I mean, I'm sitting there talking to this little white guy in a skiff, this little skinny kid, and he's kind of a smart aleck under the Biden administration, and he's got the man bun going, and he didn't care for me, and the feeling was mutual, brother. I can tell you that. And he told me that the president was on a need to know basis.
Mm.
And what kind of arrogance is that? That is unbelievable. Chuck Schumer, that's who had the bill.
So,
I'm sorry, it was Schumer. That's who I was trying to think of. I don't know. I couldn't think of.
yeah,
My crack
Congressman,
over here. It doesn't
Congressman,
remind.
I was wondering, do you think it's more of they don't want us to know the information because of the technology and innovation that could make a lot of what they're doing obsolete? Or do you think that it's also some very scary, problematic things that the public may not be ready to comprehend, or both? I mean, from the things that you've seen,
I'm not. Yeah, I know what you're saying. I'm not as there's the interdimensional. Is it demonic? Are we doing business with the devil, so to speak? And I'm a Christian. I assume you are by your artwork there on your left arm.
yes, sir.
And I'm just not worried about the demonic element. There's enough of that here. I mean, they control Hollywood and probably most of Washington D.C. They don't need a spaceship to do it,
Right,
to
right.
come in so maybe some of it is. Some of these things we see I mean, they look angelic,
Mm.
what you would think would be, but they could be demons. I don't know, but I'm really just not worried about that. But I am worried about a government that thinks that they know so much that we don't need to know it. But going back to, if it say they do have a flying saucer of some sort, and it wouldn't be within the government, because everybody says, "Well, go out to Area 51, Burchett." Well, Area 51 would be a great place to get a T-shirt, maybe get your picture in one of those signs that says, if you cross over this line, you could be met with lethal force, and there's all this stuff. But that's where we do most of our testing of some of our high very secret aircraft, high tech stuff. But I don't think they have it there. I think what they've done is they've handed it off to these 5 or 6 humongous private enterprise businesses, missile
Mm.
defense contractors, things like that, that jet propulsion corporations, and they've handed it off to them so that we can't FOIA them. Now, FOIA is Freedom of Information Act. So, me as a congressman or you as a citizen say, I want to get this, or a member of the press says, I want to get this, and they contact one of these agencies and says, I want this information, and they have to give it to you within reason. It's a national security issue or something, but that's what they always hide behind. Everything's always national security, and so they have given it off to these corporations so that we can't touch it.
Mm.
And because I can't FOIA a private corporation, I can, but it won't. they don't have to agree to it. So we just keep moving down this road, and I think there's some secrecy, but there's also I've been told by some well-connected folks that these craft we do have, we really, it's kind of like if I'm an old motorcycle guy. I've got a 1947 Indian Chief, so I take that thing back in history to the Mayflower, and they land at Plymouth Rock or whatever, and they're going to see this bright, shiny object. Maybe they can roll it and they think, wow, this is cool looking. I don't know what it is. They would never be able to adjust the carburetor. They would never be able to adjust the spark plugs. They probably couldn't get a fuel of the high enough octane to make it kick over. And, it'd be a bright, shiny object. And they might get it started. They might get it started. But they wouldn't know what to do with it when they got it started. So we've got all that. And then you put the arrogance into it that they're going to have to admit that they've had this stuff since at least 1947.
Wow.
And I think Roswell was a cover up. 1947, New Mexico, because military intelligence comes out literally with a press release, and it's released to all the presses in the papers. You can see the historical record of it. And it says saucer captured in New Mexico desert. Now, the next day they come out and say, oh, no, we made a mistake. It was a hot air balloon.
Yeah, I saw
Now,
that.
how do you go from a saucer to a hot air balloon? To me, that's just beyond belief. And the arrogance that's associated with that, believing that we'll believe that, to me is, because back in the day we did. We trusted the government.
Mm-hmm.
But now we know that's not the case. I've been in government most of my life, and I sure as heck don't trust it.
No, I'll tell you this, that the feeling that I have as a person that's never been in government is that the trust is growing by the minute, and because we know that there's good people in government like yourself and others that are trying to do their best, but they're being overtaken and sometimes thwarted by the deep state and these powers that be, these arrogant honey bun head fools that when they get power and control, they want to, exercise their ignorance. And so I think the public is becoming a lot more skeptical. Even the stuff that's released, I tell my audience, you got to look at it and evaluate that too. I mean, what is the government really showing us real stuff? I mean, do you think that in part? Well, I'll ask you this because I want to know. Because I'm probably never going to be able to see any of the stuff that you've seen, and maybe none of us will. What is one thing that you think that if the public knew, or is there something that if the public knew, it would cause the public to completely crumble? Not the technology aspect of it, but something, I'll say it like this, being a Christian, do you think that if we knew everything that the government knows about this, would it affect Christianity? Would it cause people to fall away from the faith, or do you think it'll cause people to get closer to the faith because of what they've been able to observe?
I don't. I've seen a lot of things that people told me shouldn't exist and don't exist and defy our laws of gravity and physics. And to me, I go back and read the Bible. Genesis 1, God created the heavens and the earth. Then you go to Ezekiel. Ezekiel saw the wheel. Now, the wheel was, at that time, was, this is translated from Hebrew to King James, but the wheel was something that was the most technologically advanced item they had at the time was a wheel. And they talk about a wheel within a wheel, which would be the classic saucer. You get it's round and it's got the dome on top. And I don't think it does. And I think that it's kind of arrogant to think that we're the best thing that God could ever made. I just can't imagine him sitting there and puts humans up on his mantle saying, gosh, this is the best I could ever do. And look, I go out every night and I look at the stars, and the light from those stars literally, and this is hard for my little brain to figure out. It took me 6 years to get out of the University of Tennessee, and I didn't drink or smoke pot. My daddy was in conduct, and Mama was on the board. I mean, Mama was, when she died, they put her on in the Hall of Fame of Knoxville College, which was a historically black college there in Knoxville.
Wow.
And so where she taught forever. But I come from a very educated family, but I'm not that end of the spectrum. But I say that the within my ability to understand, but the light from those stars left there. You're seeing it, and it left there before the time of Christ.
Wow.
Now, that's light years. I mean, that is vast, man. And I just can't comprehend it. And some of those stars that we see, the light left there, and the star no longer exists. I mean, that I can't even comprehend that. It's like I don't smoke weed, but if I did, that'd be the kind of thing I'd sit there and think about all the time. It kind of freak me out, you know.
Yeah,
But
no.
no, I just don't have I'm not worried about. I'm good with Jesus. I'm not worried about all that stuff. That doesn't. And I hear people saying, I've had people tell me that, and I've seen preachers on the internet calling me out for this stuff. It's demonic and all this. And maybe some of it is, but maybe some of it isn't. But shouldn't I know? Why should my government block that kind of stuff? And I just don't. I just can't go that route.
Yeah, I think people with little faith, or they haven't been open minded enough, and they've probably been a little too arrogant on thinking that they know everything about everything that the Bible says. I think the people who operate in humility and understand God is in control no matter what, I think will fare better when we get access to new information, because the Bible never said that there was no quote unquote what we call aliens. The Bible never predicted any of these things. People have done it in their own minds and visualized things to fit their agenda. And I think some of those pastors are guilty of this. And they're afraid that they've been deceiving the people and telling the people some of these things are absolute when they have not done the research. And when this stuff comes out, they're going to either have to deny it, or they're going to have to, tell the congregation that they lied. But yeah, I was worried about that. I was worried that some of this information will come out and people will begin to operate as if everything is demonic, and begin when we find out it's not all demonic, and there's some connections between intelligent communication between these foreign entities and human beings over
Yeah.
historical time periods, that people would begin to flip out. And
Yeah, I think that's more of a control thing. I just think they're trying to control us and our thoughts, and and that bothers me too. You got all these atheist knuckleheads in government that are worried about my faith. I think I think that's just a misdirection by them. I think they're just not being true to us and true to themselves. And again, the Bible talks about people that let's see, professing themselves to be wise, they became fools.
mm,
And that's one thing I never do, is I never get cocky about how much I know, because there's always going to be some 12-year-old kid that knows more than I do.
right, that's true.
Oh, it's
Congressman, I
like
got
when
to go
you
ahead.
go ahead. No, I was just going to say, it's like when the government says, "Oh, this computer system's you're not going to be able to hack it," and then some 14-year-old kid in a garage in West Knoxville, Tennessee, is already figured out how to crack the code.
Right, right. That's hilarious. Uh, Congressman, I got a couple questions I want to ask you, because I
Go
know my
ahead.
people want to hear if these things are real or not, right? So the first one is, do you think aliens are, based on what you know, amongst us now, meaning that they could be living amongst the population, living in a house down the street, or do you think they're kind of isolated into these bases in the ocean or something of that nature?
I don't think they're living amongst us. There's people talking about these hybrid stuff, and
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't get into all that. I was talking to a guy who was a former admiral, who talked to me about the sightings above the five deep sea areas, and said, we've mapped less than 20% of the ocean floor. We've mapped more of the moon, for goodness sakes, than we have the ocean floor. So when you look at there's more water than land on this earth. I mean, on the surface. So to me, that just seems more logical, that there's something there, that it would be based there. And if that's possible, I don't know. I tend to lean that way, just because of probability and statistics, but who knows?
So
I
we
also,
go ahead.
there's a physics formula that it's quantum physics, and it's basically something's vibrating over here, and then it can appear over here instantaneously.
Mm.
It's quantum physics, and and you'll have somebody call in and say that's not exactly how it works, but that's just I'm explaining to you on my level
Yeah.
that I understand, and and I mean it's instantaneous travel, which is it has no the time doesn't figure into it or distance, and to me that science proves that there's a God then because quantum physics is, I mean, God's here and everywhere. It's
Right.
instantaneous. So if these people or these beings or whatever have cracked that code, then they're traveling.
Do we have some of these sightings or information that America has communicated with other countries? Because, being an American, it seems like the center of the universe for us, but these other
Yeah,
countries are having if these extraterrestrial beings or whatever exist, they have to be all over the world. So, are we
yeah,
communicating with other countries about this, and
yeah.
are other
You know,
countries reporting these things?
I was been associated with some Christian organizations throughout the world, and I, I talked to a fella over the internet from Russia who actually had said that they're trying to get into theirs. Now Japan, because of what we're doing, is going to start releasing theirs. I know Canada has a department that does that. England and I believe France, most may in Central America, a lot of wild stuff comes out of there.
Yeah.
But everybody, it seems almost every nation in in this world is got a department that's looking at it. And yeah, there's some inner talking amongst the officials, mostly after they're retired though, because they're in uh, sworn to so much secrecy.
Yeah. Congressman, have you seen because I've seen on the internet last night, I was looking at it, scrolling, they were saying it's these different type of species. Is that something that's verifiable, or is that more mythical? As far as what you've seen, what you can tell us, and like what is known, even if you
I,
didn't see it, somebody else see it. Like, is there different types of species of these
I would
beings?
tell
Or
you that I would tell you that's mythical, but I had a world. I'll just say somebody who's known throughout the world um, meet with me here, and and he told me that these people wanted to meet with me, and I said, sure, send them up to the office, and they said they don't want to come to D.C. They want to come to the farm and see you in Tennessee. I said, all right, and I remember my wife and daughter were out of town, which was a good thing because I only had 6 Mountain Dews in the fridge, of them, I think. And they came in and said, "You mind if we hook up something to your television?" I was like, "Sure." I don't know. All I know is push the button and put the battery in. My daughter has to program it. My wife programs everything. So they came to town and they showed me some stuff on the screen that was just beyond belief.
Wow.
And but anyway, and so we were just talking. I was asking them what they thought, where they were at, because I'm very cautious because people try to set me up. I think the
Yeah.
government has a disinformation, which you're going to see some of that footage is a disinformation. It'll show you stuff that you know exactly what it is. It's not a UFO, but um, they started talking about that, and I was just like, what? Because that's kind of the fringe. Used to be kind of the fringe thing, but now that we sort of moved it to the mainstream, and there's polling done that shows that over 55% of the population of this country thinks we're not alone, and that cuts across socioeconomic, racial, everything, um, and that's doctors and lawyers and ditch diggers,
Mhm.
and so that's kind of the thing. There's I've heard the definition of about 8 different species. I don't know till I see it, till I shake hands or paws or whatever they got with them. I get sent a lot of material and I get a lot of pictures and videos and people want me to come out to the house and see something. I'm always afraid I'll end up in a freezer in North Carolina doing that. But a family of cannibals will get me or something. But no, I'm very cautious about that. I've got a bookshelf full of books that people have sent me. You got to read this. It explains it, and what it is and what's going on. And I'm really cautious about all that. I just, all I want to, I think what we better get back to is 2 things. It's not about little green men. It's not about flying saucers. It's about what are we spending tens of millions of your hard-earned dollars on if they tell us they don't exist.
Mm.
That should be the question we all ask, and it's going to fall within. There's going to be 8 different species to nothing, but I think America needs to know.
Yeah, no,
That
I
makes
agree.
sense.
Congressman, I couldn't agree with you more. I think
And
that
please just call me Tim. All right.
Tim, is that okay?
You work for a living. I'm in Congress. I ain't hit a lick in 8 years. Brother.
See, I grew up in the South too, man. I mean, I consider Texas a part of the South, but
Oh
I
yeah,
grew up in Texas, and I'd be dang if I call somebody by their first name. You know, it's funny. I didn't even know my daddy's first name for a while until I got a little older, because I would never
sir.
call my daddy's first name. You know, so
No,
but
sir and ma'am. Mama is ma'am. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Daddy is sir. Yes, sir. No, sir.
that's right. That's right. So yeah, is there anything you'd like to add? I mean, I think we covered a lot of it, because I'm starting to really see that it could be economical. You know, if
Yeah.
somehow we have access to this,
Well,
magnetic
I mean, look,
propulsion or
the
something.
powers that be, if black folks and white folks aren't fighting, and the Jews and the Christians and the Muslims or whoever aren't fighting, it doesn't keep them in power,
Right.
and it doesn't keep us distracted. And so, I think an issue like this is great because it cuts. I mean, I'm in a committee with Jared Moskowitz. He's Jewish. He's very progressive, super smart. One of my best friends. He's a Democrat. He's in there. AOC's in there, and you got Luna. She's as conservative as I am, and the rest of the gang. Um, we're all just kind of get to the answers, the bottom of it. And I think this is kind of a unifying thing, and I think that's part of the friction too, because they don't know what to do with it. They can't say, oh, that's a bunch of right wing nuts or that's some left wing thing.
Mm.
That's just folks wanting to know.
And President Trump is open minded to it all. He's not resistant at all.
Very, very. He's about transparency. President Trump has been about. I had the guy sitting right here in this chair when I talked to him about it on the phone, and he said, "What do you think it is?" I said, "Mr. President, I really honestly don't know the answer to that." I said, "But I think we need to know, and I think you're the president to do it." And he is. I mean, if they don't kill him first, he's going to turn this. He's going to turn the tables on this thing.
Yeah, I believe it wholeheartedly. And I know we run a long time. One day we have to come back, because I want to talk to you about, the state of our republic. Especially in Congress. I want to get more insight, because I talked to Anna Paulina, and I was down there actually in Congress. I was in the office, and we were talking, and I was just asking her, how do people in Congress get along? Is it all, fire and gnashing of teeth, or is it to where it's more of a public display of frustration with one another, but behind the scenes, is everybody cooperating, or are most people cooperating? Who's friendly, who's not? Is any of this stuff real? Because on the outside we see it a certain way, but on the inside, it's very different. How hard?
Just
How
remember
hard
what I said. If we're all fighting, they stay in power.
Mm,
If young kids are getting killed over in the Middle East, the old guard just stays in power.
yeah,
You
that's
can cut it any way you want, but that's it's all about power. It's all about control. I mean, that's Washington. You've been around. You've seen it.
yeah.
That's what Washington. That's what your business is about. It's about power and control, and everybody's trying to push you out of the way.
Yeah, that is 100% true. But I want to thank you so much for taking your time. I know you're a busy man, working hard for the people, especially the people of Tennessee. But God bless you. Keep up the wonderful work, and hopefully we can communicate again about a few things, because you're one of the few that I trust, that I know is authentic,
Please
a
stay
real
in
person.
touch. Please stay in touch. I love doing this. This is traditional media is gone, man. Yeah,
Right.
it's people like yourself that are going to save this dadgum country,
Well, I
and I
agree with
appreciate
that.
you very much.
Well, thank you. God bless you guys. Y'all have a wonderful day, and also thank you for coming on.
God bless you, man. God has blessed me. Thank you.